Alright, welcome YouTube. This is Dark Wizard bringing you the 2.0 preview for the Ogre Khan's book. I know everybody's really excited about 2.0, the rules, and the army books, and I'm very excited to be bringing this book to you. Overall, I believe that you're going to really like 2.0, as well as all the changes for the Ogre Khan. There's only a few things that I was slightly disappointed with on this book, but overall, this is a very good book. I'm really glad the changes that they made, that they've done some good jobs on just fixing some of these things. Alright, so just real quickly before I get into the book, I want to let you know that I'm only going to be talking about things that changed so I can keep this video short. I don't want to ramble on for hours with just my views on Ogre Khans in general. And if there is something that you want to see more of, just go ahead and pause the screen on that slide because I'm going to move through stuff pretty quickly if there was no changes on it. A couple other housekeeping things is, first, I'm using the rules, names, and points and everything from earlier this month, and I just want to let you know that things may change. They had some last minute stuff that everybody was still working on, the rules and the books, so you might see different names. Some of the points that I say may not be the exact points. I might even have some typos in here. I did these slides, and if any of that happens, sorry in advance, but a sneak peek with a few errors is better than no sneak peek at all, so you're going to have the book very soon and you'll be able to see everything exactly how it comes out for 2.0. The other thing that I want you to keep in mind as we're going through stuff is that remember many things were balanced. So some of the items that were auto-include in not just the Ogre Khans but in all the books were nerfed, and some of the great combos were either removed or lessened, so they're not going to be quite as powerful in the game. Now this was done across the board for all armies, so before judging how the changes will affect the ogres, think about how it'll affect everything as a whole. So maybe read the rule book, read several other army books. I'm lucky in one aspect that I have a lot of armies, and as I started reading the first army that I was looking at the book, I was like, wow, I really got nerfed on a lot of this. But as I read multiple army books, I realized that all of my lists that were really brutal all got knocked down a peg or two, which is good. I mean, there was still a lot of ways that you could build stuff that people just didn't like playing them, and especially my tournament list. I know the guys in our gaming club here, while I was practicing, they definitely got tired of playing against some of those. So I think the stuff that was over the top got brought down to a level that, closer to where it should have been to begin with. And then some of the things that just didn't get used that often, they've gotten boosted. And you may not see that right away because there's just so many new changes in 2.0 and all the army books to absorb. But as you play several games and you go through, you might realize, hey, this is a really good combo now, whereas before I wouldn't have even thought about using it. So my suggestion, definitely keep a positive attitude for 2.0 as well as the Ogre book. Build some lists, build something maybe you haven't done before in the past, and then go out and get some games in. And once you get some games in, I think you'll find that overall everything is really good place right now. And I know there are a few things that are going to need to be adjusted here in the next month or so, but for the most part, the 9th Age team has done a wonderful job of putting this all together for us. It's going to be well worth the wait. And then just the last thing, I can't pronounce most of these things very well, so some of these I'm not going to pronounce correctly. Sorry up front if I don't say it right, and some of them I'm not even going to try. So I'll just point it on the screen, you can read it yourself. So let's go ahead and get directly into what's going on here with this book. So first we're going to have universal rules. So the only universal rule we have is the Scrapling Lookout, and that's the same as it was before. This is a great rule for ogres. I like the fact that we can be down to less than 3 models before we can be distributed onto characters. Other armies with the larger cav base sizes, they're not able to do that, and this is really just an ogre flair that I like a lot with this. So I'm glad that they kept that going on. The other one that didn't change is going to be Stone Skin. This is another one that I'm really glad stayed the way it is. Alright, under special attacks, so Sons of Avalanche. So this got better, not only your regular units, but if you have characters in them, as long as you have 2 full ranks, then you're going to get an extra impact hit. So on regular models, it's going to be 2. On your characters, it's going to be D3 plus 1 instead of just D3. And you still get the same thing that we used to have, that we're immune to the effects of fear of enemy models. Now we still take the panic chest from terror, but we are immune to fear. All right, while I'm talking about just full ranks and units, and I'll get into it a little bit later, but I want to point out in the new rule book there's a rule called Stand Behind, and musicians and standard bearers get this. And For most armies, it's not going to make a big difference, but it is going to affect us as Ogre players. At least if you were like me and you like to play your Shaman in the back row and have your champion, musician, standard bearer in the front, or maybe even you had your Khan or Great Khan in there and you put that in the front, and you'd always have the Shaman in the back. That's going to change. So now with both the musician and the standard bearer having stand behind, it basically forces other models with the front rank to have to be up there in front. So there is no more hiding our characters. In the past, I'd even sometimes hide my BSB, where he was just meant to buff the unit and had no defensive kit, where he'd be in that second row. That's not something we can do now, but we do have a lot of ways to help protect our shamans. So it's not going to be horrible to us, but it is something just to keep in mind, that the stand behind is going to affect us more than other things. Okay, so Iron Fist, they are mostly the same. Really, the only difference with this is there is no more parry for Tuskers. We knew this was coming, so no groans there. I mean, that was just broken. So, you have to be on foot to get the parry. And this also goes on paired weapons now. So the models like your regular Tribesmen are going to have paired weapons, and then you just add the Iron Fist ability onto it. Now, if you haven't read the main rulebook, just so you know, paired weapons now no longer give you +1 on agility, which is the old initiative. However, they do give you an extra 1 on offensive skill, and you ignore parry. And again, we have ways to get around the initiative. I'm looking at you, Frosty. So this is a really good change for us. All right, brace of pistols, that's still going to be the same as it was before. Same way with the Ogre crossbow and the hunting spear. So none of these are really going to make a difference on any of these, just different wording, like using the word gigantic in here. Alright, so hereditary spells. These are going to be the spells that are unique to each army. So we have Children of Umi, I'm guessing is how you say that. I like this one. Most of the hereditary spells, I feel like they got a really good job of making it match what the army's looking for. So with ours, we have 2 casting values, a 7 and a 10. It's range 18, and basically this is going to make sure that any melee attacks against the target unit, whichever one we want to pick, is going to be -1 to wound. Now this is also going to be able to stack if you go with the casting value, where the shamans are going to get +1 toughness. So it's essentially almost like giving them +2 toughness. If they are using shamanism, then that's going to be great. But if not, this is going to give you ability to not use shamanism and still protect your shaman, because you're essentially getting to a much higher toughness. Very few people are going to wound you on 3s or 4s with this stacked on there. Alright, so let's get into some big names. Now the first one that you may not see because I don't have these all listed out in a row, but Hellfist is gone. Now I know that's going to be sad for some people, but I'm not too sad about that. We have one that's going to help a little bit with our leadership, and we have several new big names, and overall I'm really happy with what they've got going on the big names here. So the first one I want to go over is Troll Leader. So this one is going to be 15 points more than what it used to be, and it's going to be limited to models on foot. Now the only real difference here, other than those two, is that it's going to lose stupidity. And if you haven't read, stupidity's gone in the entire game. I love that. I play Saurian Ancients, I play Dread Elves. I always had Troll Leader on my tournament list here, and stupidity was just something that I didn't really feel like need to be in the game. So I'm extremely happy that that's gone, and I'll gladly pay 15 points more to make sure that I'm not my huge bunker unit is not stupid. Alright, the next one is Horde Master. So with this one, it's going to be 20 points more. However, the big thing with this is all of the weapons for your Weapon Master are already going to be included with this. So you're actually saving points by not having to buy all those weapons individually that we did last time. And I'll tell you, it's much harder to get armor now, and having plate armor, this is a really good big name now. I really think that this is one that played on the field quite a bit more. Alright, so the next one we have is Headhunter. And this one, there's really no changes except for the fact that it's 15 points more, but I'm good with this. This was a very good one, being able to bring back some health points. It's almost like the Vamp rule, and it's on a 3-up roll that you get to bring back your health points, so I think it's well worth the 15 points. Now here's our first new big name, and it's going to be Cult Leader. With this one, it only can be on your General or your Battle Standard Bearer, and the range of the bear's commanding presence or rally around the flag is always 18. This is going to be the one that's going to help us a little bit where we lost Hellfest, and I really do feel like we needed this somewhere in the army, because we really don't have the option to get the large leadership bubbles without something like this, and so I'm really glad to see that this one's in here. Now the next one that's going to be a new one is going to be Gut Roarer, and this one's for shamans only, and the bearer gains fear and it also gets channel 1. The way the channel is going to work is that's going to get you an extra veil token, and so if you do want to go with a magic heavy list, this is going to be something that's nice to put on your shaman to go ahead and help with that. Wild Heart, this one's going to be 15 points more, but you do get an extra 50 points that you can allot to your special equipment. And other than that, it really hasn't changed. So I am fine paying 15 points more, but being able to go to 150 points for basically my general at this point, than only being stuck at 100 points. Alright, Spine Splitter is one of the only ones that stayed exactly the same, no difference in how it acts or its points. And then we have Rotten Jaw. So with Rotten Jaw, this one's going to be 35 points less, so it used to be 70 points. However, now the unit doesn't benefit from poison once per game, which I'm a little sad about. I really did like having that in my Tribesmen and giving them all poison once, but it does make it to where the model that has Rotten Jaw is also immune to poison. If you can stack that with some of the spells, whether it's shamanism or a hereditary spell with your shamans and they're in the front rank, that is going to help quite a bit, that people can't just bypass your poison, your toughness with poison. You know, I feel overall that's not a bad trade-off there, even though I'm a little bit sad that I can't get a unit poison for that one time that I'm going to need it. Alright, so moving on to all of our enchantments. I'm sure as you've already seen, weapons now, what'll happen with this is you add this to a certain weapon. So some of them have only weapon types they can use. For example, first one, which used to be our Kadal's Maul, now it's something Legacy. It can only be put on a weapon, a great weapon, and it's going to be a little bit less. However, you have to have that weapon now, so you'll see across the board most of these weapon stuff went down on the weapon enhancement, but you're going to then pay for that a little bit more on the weapon side. I like that because now you can buy the weapon from your regular points cost, and that still gives you more points that you can use in basically all of your special items. Now this one didn't change much. The only thing by going down to 100 points is it does allow your regular con instead of your great cons only to take this. But other than that, it's still going to work the same as it used to. You may not see it here, but just so you know, Axebreaker Gauntlet is now gone, but I don't see that being missed that much. It's not something that was really taken that often. Alright, so Heart Ripper, this is going to be less expensive, but you are going to need to buy the Iron Fist or the paired weapons first. Other than that, really no change on it. Now one of our new ones is going to be Viper's Curse. This one's going to be a fun option. I don't see it taken in all of the list, but getting a weapon that has 4 shot, strength 4, AP 2, you can put this on either a brace of pistols or you can put it on your Ogre crossbow. And it's always going to hit on a 4+. So this is something that, obviously I don't think is going to go on your main combat-orientated Killy Lord, but this is something that you could definitely put on some other people, and I think it's something that we could definitely use. It's almost like the old Skull Splitter a little bit. Alright, Ritual Bloodletter. This is another one of our new weapons, and I like this because it's a nice benefit to put on the shamans. Again, shamans are going to be in the front row. They're going to be more combat orientated than they used to be, and being able to add an additional offensive skill as well as attack, and then get yourself some Veil tokens. That's going to be one that you do that with a combo with some other items in here, and your shamans aren't going to be combat beasts, but I can definitely see them racking up enough points or enough wounds that you can actually get some Veil tokens off this. So I'm really happy about this Ritual Bloodletter. Overall, I think they did a very good job on the weapon enhancements options. Now we go to the banners. So with the banners, they're all going to be pretty much the same as before, only we got one new one. So this first banner on here, I'm not going to try to pronounce the name, but that's basically the old dragon skin banner. Works the same as it did last time. You know, the next one, the skull banner, that's going to be exactly the same as it used to be. And we do have a new banner called the Pennant of the Great Grass Sky, which is going to give us Swift Stride for the unit. And I think that's one that's very well received here for the ogres. Alright, next we're going to go to the armor enhancements. Now what you're going to find in the main rule book is it's much harder to get good armor. So this first one, this Wrestler's Belt, it's a new one, and I'm very happy to see that we get +2 armor enchantment, and it's going to add a plus strength. And this is one that I know you can only take it on light armor, but this will be one that I really do feel may work out pretty well for us. So next we have the Mammoth Hide Cloak, and this is going to be very similar than it was the last time, only it's going to be 10 points less, although it is going on a suit of armor. And I'm really glad this one made it through with no issues. This is one of those that I really like to have on my heroes. It is very ogre-ish, and I know a lot of people complained about it, and I really do feel like we need this one. And so I'm really glad to see that we do still have the Mammoth Hide, and it even went down in points, even though you are going to be buying the armor, so it's going to go up just a little bit. Alright, another new one is Croquette Dan's, and again, I'm not probably saying that right, Resilience. And with this one, if you have models that don't have any special saves, your regen or your Aegis save, then this one's going to be really nice. You're going to get the +1 toughness at only 50 points. So I think that's something that on models without those, you'll see this quite regularly. And the Yeti Furs, they're going to be 5 points more, but basically does the same thing and just goes on a suit of armor now. So, you know, I'm really happy that one stuck through about the same. And overall, I'm really happy with how all of our armor enhancements have come through on this round. Now we go to the artifacts. So with the artifacts, just so you know, we lost the Blind Eye of the Naganini, I'm not sure how you said that, and then Demon Heart. It's not a huge loss that either one of those are gone. I don't see those being used all the time. I was hoping for, you know, something with an artifact that helped us more with magic defense, but I know that's not going to be one of the things that 9th Age considers as an ogre specialty. We're just going to need to suck that up and move past that, and I do understand we want to have the armies a little more geared toward exactly what they do well. Here's our first new one, and this is Liger's Tongue. And with this one, basically all model parts belonging to a rank that has models in base contact with the bearer's model suffer a -1 attack value to a minimum of 1. It is going to have less attacks coming at us there. Again, I'm not sure how much this is going to be used, but it's one that it's nice to have. And then another one that's new is our Rampager's Chain. At 50 points, I really like this one. The bearer gains Stomp, D3 +1 instead of just the plain 1 stomp, and then all of the models in the bearer's unit must reroll the failed to wound rolls with the stomps. When we're going against infantry, the stomps are such a big part of what we do here, and being able to re-roll them as well as getting a D3 +1 stomp, I see this one being used quite a bit on our heroes. And then the A-Rock Charm, it's going to be 10 points more, but very worth it. With the way that the new armor and special saves are going, where they're harder to get, and you really can't kit your heroes out as well as you used to be able to make them, you know, almost invincible. I really like having this one where you're going to go ahead and get the stone skin and cut those multiple wounds down. Alright, so the army organization did not change at all. We still have max 40% characters, at least 25% core, no limit on the special. We have max 35 of Powder Keg, and we have a max of 30 for the Chained Beast. Alright, starting with our Khan and Great Khan. So these didn't change hardly at all. So the only thing that really affected was the Great Khan got 10 points cheaper. He comes with light armor now instead of heavy armor, so he's going to be a little more expensive to get the heavy armor at the same point cost. However, some of his weapons are costing less now, so overall I would say it's just about the same on the Great Khan. And when we get to the Khan, it's the exact same thing as the Great Khan. So basically they didn't do much with these guys, and here are the options for the Khan. All right, so for our shaman, first he got 30 points less expensive, which I really think is something that he needed. I felt like our magic was always just a little too expensive. The other thing is he can now take light armor. This is huge for him to be able to take light armor because he, like I said before, he's going to be in the front rank now, and being able to add magical enhancements to his light armor is going to be critical for keeping him alive. So between that and the spells, I really do think that it is a possibility for the shaman to really survive, and with some of the stuff even help the magic phase by being in the front rank killing some things. Alright, so the Mammoth Hunter, he is going to be 10 points more than he used to be, but he gained Animal Master, and I really like Animal Master. If we go to the next page on that, that's going to have, well actually first here's the Hunter options. And then I still have the special rules on here, which loner is basically the same. Animal Master, this one gives him commanding presence for only Sabertoothed Tigers, but being able to run some Sabertoothed Tigers away from your general and next to him is, I think, a great option for us. Some of the other things with this is he can now take Vanguard or Scout. So if I come back up to the options, you'll see that he can take Vanguard or Scout at 20 points each. And then he can still take both the Rock Ock and he can take the Tusker as a mount. I was really hoping they'd allow us to take him on a Tusker mount and put him in the Tusker Cav. I know that's going to break the Tusker Cav because they're already at the point of being too good, but it is a hope that I'd really like to see a character on a Tusker being able to ride in the Tusker Cav. On the Rock Ock, I'll get into it more a little bit later, but this one really did get nerfed down some. I'm not sure if they're going to be on the Rock Ock as much as it used to be. And I did forget to mention the Tusker mount is a max of 2 per army. Alright, so for our Ogre Khan core, we have, like I said earlier, we have to have 25%. We have the Tribesmen, the Bruisers, and the Scraplings. So for the Tribesmen, they are going to be 1 point more for all the added models, but they do come base with paired weapons, and they're 4 points less for the Iron Fist. So overall, our Tribesmen actually got cheaper than they used to be. And then if you haven't seen it on the other armies, all of the standards are now just, you know, if they're allowed a standard, you get standards throughout the army, so you don't have to take the veteran standard bearer upgrade. So I really do like that you can have different core units all being able to take, you know, special standards. And now just remember that with paired weapons, you do not get a boost to your initiative. So we are going to be initiative 2, so we are going to be unfortunately striking at the same speed as dwarfs, you know, unless we have the Frosty near us, and then, you know, that Frost Mammoth is going to help us strike almost like elves. But what we did get, which is +1 to offensive and ignore parry. This is a really big win for our core. By far, these are going to be our best core, because when you can hit some things on 3s, most things you're going to be on the 4s, and your defense, as long as you take the Iron Fist, you're still going to have parry, so it doesn't matter that you're at a defense 3. I really see these being, you know, again, our main core that we take, because the Bruisers didn't get much help. So when we get to the Bruisers, they actually went up by 25 points for the base unit of 3, and they did go down on points by like 5 points a model as you add model. And I do understand that, you know, everybody does take them in basically groups of 3, so that's why they did make them a little more expensive. I still don't see larger units of these being playable. Now this just may be our meta, but with larger units, the Bruisers are horrible. They don't have enough defense to actually hold up, and so when they just get hit and destroyed, and there's not enough of them left before they actually get to swing back against most stuff if you take them in a big unit. The fact that they die too fast because they're not going to have parry, so they're going to be hitting on 3 from most, they're only going to be a 5 up, and they're striking absolutely last even if you have a Frost Mammoth near. Plus they're not going to get the +1 on offensive like our Tribesmen do. You know, I just don't see these guys being taken very often, and what they are taken are going to be the same that most people take them now, or, you know, small groups of 3 or 4 where they run around. And the way that some of the new rules work, they're probably going to be taken in groups of 3, because you don't want to take 4 and then end up having to take test if you're decimated. This is the one thing that I do hope that they fix when we get our Ogre Kingdom's book overhaul, because we should be able to use our Great Weapon guys and they should be effective in bigger units, but at least in our meta right now, they're absolutely not. It's just not something that we can take and actually make work. Alright, next moving on to the Scraplings. So they are about the same points cost for your base models. However, you have to start with 20 now instead of 15. And then it's 1 point less for all the additional models that you add. And your Foreman and his weapons are also going to be less cost. With the new line of sight and the new volley fire rules, I really don't see the Scraplings hanging around with bows in the background are going to be as popular as they used to be. So I'm not really for sure how much people are going to take Scraplings. Personally, I'm glad I didn't buy the actual Scrapling models, and I'm just using the ones from my Orcs and Goblin as my my Goblin models for my Scraplings. I'll test them out a little bit, but I don't know. I almost wonder if Hand Weapon Shield getting the parry and actually just being stuff that kind of blocks stuff up is going to be a better option now than standing back and shooting with your Scraplings. All right, and here is all the stats on the Scrapling Foreman. Really didn't change much, just got a little bit less expensive. Alright, so let's move over to the Ogre Khan Special. This is by far my favorite. I try to get just my core filled out, and then all of the fun stuff I always feel comes out of our Special. More than a lot of our other army books, I really do rely heavily on our Special units. We still have no point limit on that. We have the Mercs, the Tusker Cav, the Yetis, Scrapling Trappers, Sabertoothed Tigers, and the Kin Eaters. Alright, with one of my absolute favorite specials, this is going to be the Merc Vets. They're going to be the same. Some of their weapons went up, some of their other weapons went down, but they've left them pretty much how they were, and I am very happy about this. This is a great special unit. You can kit them out so many different ways to match different army builds with the Ogres, and these are really are versatile guys, and the fact that they left them how they are, I am extremely happy with, because I was worried they were going to nerf them down a little bit. Alright, Tusker Cav. So with the Tusker Cav, the one big change that we have, actually there's a couple, but one is your base is going to be 3 models, and then you can add up to 2 extra, so you can get up to 5. Now, I don't see this as being a big deal for most people. I have seen people run 2 Tusker Cav. I never felt like they were that effective. I really felt like Tusker Cav are meant to be run in 4s. 3s are a possibility, but 4s are really where they're the strongest. You start with 3, and then you can add up to the 2. Now, I don't see a lot of people taking 5, but it's so exciting that we can take 5. I might have to play a game where I take 5 just to say that I did it. At that point, I think one has to go behind, and then you're losing attack, so I'm not sure how effective it is, but it is something that I'm really excited that we can do. Now, overall, they're 4 points less in the min unit, and then they're 5 points a model higher for the extras. Overall, it's going to be just a little bit less expensive to take 4 of them. Now, the one thing that I mentioned earlier with Iron Fist, and I'm just going to point out here, is we no longer get parry with Iron Fist on our mounted Tuskers. Well, part of me is slightly sad about that. I'm actually happy. I don't want to hear any crying here over losing that, because I always felt bad when someone was higher weapon skill than me on my Tusker Cav who are already so good and saying, oh, guess what, you can't hit me on better than a 4, because I get to use parry on a mounted beast like this. I feel like that's going to get less whining from our Tusker Cav, because a lot of people, that really did rub people the wrong way. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think that it did make them a little more balanced. And then the other thing that we didn't see a lot when they changed things like advanced rate and march rates, things like that, but this is going to be one of them in this book, where our advance rate is 8, but our march is only 14. So they're really only giving us the march of someone who's advanced 7. Again, marching 14 with these big Tusker Cav, I'm still okay with that. Alright, so Yetis, they went up 15 points for a base of just 2 of them, but you can take 6 now. They're really unchanged other than that, so I do see Yetis still fulfilling the same purpose that they always have for us. Scrapling Trappers. So stat-wise, they stayed pretty much the same. There's not much different stat-wise. However, they are much better, in my opinion, on their traps. So when we go down, it's a trap. This is something where I could see people actually using the trapper. So you can pretty much trap any piece of terrain, and all you have to do is move through it, even like say during your vanguard before the game starts. And with that, that can either make it to where people have to take dangerous terrain, or the unit suffers D6 strength 4 hits at AP 1, and on a 1, 2, 3 it's the dangerous terrain. On a 4, 5, 6 that's when it's going to be the strength 4. The great thing about this is that it affects even march rate, even advanced moves, not just marches and things like that. Basically, if you move of any sort into the terrain, then you are going to take that damage. So I normally run mostly the Saber Cats, but with this new It's a Trap, I could definitely see myself putting a unit or two in these in here and just having some fun with some of the terrain features on the board. Alright, Sabertoothed Tigers. These are my favorite cats. They are exactly the same. I am so happy that these came through unscathed. I know my gaming group is really disappointed they came through this way, because they can be one of the most annoying things, because they are some of the best chaff in the game. And I love these guys. They are very good at making sure that our units get a chance to charge against most armies, and the fact that they left them exactly the same, I can't be happier with that. Alright, the Kin Eater stayed exactly the same, except for it is 10 points less. So, I don't see those fielded that often. I have tried them in a couple of games. They seem to work out pretty good. I will say most of the time I don't end up ambushing them. I end up just putting them on the table, unless there's a lot of war machines. But this is something that, at 10 points cheaper, I may try to give it a shot, especially since I won't be running the Rock anymore. So maybe I'll go ahead and try to throw 2 of these in, or maybe a giant and 1 of these in the list. Okay, moving on to our powder keg. Just like it was before, max 35%. We have the Thunder Cannon, the Catapult, and the Bombardiers. So the Thunder Cannon, it did get 20 points more, and it lost Swift Stride. So overall, there was a little bit of nerfing on this one, but I do feel like it was maybe a little bit overpowered. I didn't run them that often, but I know that it was one of the things that, especially running 2 of them, could be a real problem for some armies. So I'm happy with exactly how they turned, with this, everything else being the same. And if you come down, you see how it shoots. It's basically going to shoot the same way that it did before. Alright, so the Catapult, you're going to notice that it's 30 points more expensive, but that's a good thing, because we, number one, kept Swift Stride on this, but we got Resistance 5. So we went from, that tough 4 to the T5, which I always felt was like a downside to this one. And I know some people are going to be disappointed that we went from a pie plate of 6 to now we're not really the pie plates anymore, but the area attack of 6. Now we're down to an area attack 5. However, we are AP 1 on that 5, and there's just not a lot of units that end up going 6x6. So I am very happy with the 5x5. I feel like you're not going to, in most cases, lose that many attacks, and having the AP1 is going to be huge. So this is a big win. I never ran Catapults, and now I'll probably put 1 or 2 of them in my list. Oh, and now that they've made them better, they have made them 2 per army, which makes sense, because this stuff gets really good. Then, people used to be able to take 3. 3 Catapults could be pretty brutal in a list. All right, Bombardiers, same thing that they've always been. They didn't change at all, and I felt like they were pretty balanced the way they were. All right, so our chained beasts. So we have max 30%. We have the Rock, the Frost Mammoth, and the Slave Giant. Alright, so starting with the Rock. This is the thing that I'm the most sad about in the book. I do understand that he was too good before. He did need to have some nerfings, and especially when Frenzy changed to where he doesn't have to overrun. If you didn't make any changes to him, he would have been, too good for his point. So I absolutely understand that he needed to be dropped down a little bit, and I'm not going to do too much complaining, but I am going to whine just a little bit about him, because he lost some of the things that I feel are really important, which are Stubborn, Swift Stride, and Fearless. Now, I know other monsters lost like their Stubborn. For example, the Taurosaurs, they lost their Stubborn, but the Taurosaurs are on 50 by 100 mil bases, so it's very hard to get a lot of attacks on them. The Rock, he is on a 100 wide mil base, so even up to 7 wide, people are still hitting him with all their models on the 20 mil models. So I don't really consider him the same caliber as the Taurosaurus and the other things that are on the 50 by 100 bases. He's going to take a lot more attacks. And the other thing that they did on this, which, you know, again, one of the few things that they changed when they split out like the weapon skill to the offensive and defensive, but they made him defensive 2. And between losing Stubborn and defensive 2 and losing the Swift Stride, I really feel like they went too far on the nerfing. Like there was just too many people that hated him, and he got knocked down a little bit, kind of like the Dread Elves did in you know, 1.2 and 1.3. They got knocked down farther than they really should have been. He's still 475 points, so he didn't go down enough in points to make up for the difference of all the things that he lost. Now, on top of everything we've talked about, he is only strength 6 unless he charges. He does get the benefits. If we go to the next page, you'll see he has the devastating charge at +1 strength, +1 AP, living avalanche, which is also going to give his impact hits the same thing, you know, +1 strength, +1 AP. So he'll be at his additional, you know, what he used to be, strength 7 and the AP of that strength 7 if he charges, but it will be much harder for him to charge now without the Swift Stride, and he has to be very careful what he charges into, because he's going to get hit on 3s now with pretty much everything unless it's going to be a skink or, you know, a goblin. Now, one benefit, he did have his rider who got +1 offensive. Not enough between that and the 5 points less to really make this make sense. So sadly, Rocky was in almost every one of my list, and with our amazing special and our other options in the powder keg, I just don't see Rocky making it in many lists right now. I think he's going to be a model collecting dust. Could be wrong. I know for sure in my armies he's going to be sitting out for a while, and you know, I guess that'll give me time to play with some other models. All right, so the Frost Mammoth, he's 30 points more, and I always felt like he was undervalued. Matter of fact, when I was playing against most people, their first mission, if they could possibly do it, was to get rid of my Frost Mammoth, because the buff that he gave to my, especially my Tusker Cav, was just amazing. I mean, it's just, sometimes it's too good when other people are initiative 2, 3, things like that. The Tusker Cav come in, they don't even get to swing. I really feel like the Frost Mammoth going up in points is all right, but he also got a benefit to that. He ended up with getting a 9-inch on his freezing aura instead of a 6, so he got an extra 3 inches to that, and that will make a big difference on your placement of him and where he can be to help. So I'm very happy with that. And now that Iron Fist and all of our paired weapons aren't giving us +1 agility, I really expect to see more Frost Mammoths on the table, because we're going to need to get above that you know, initiative 2, and being able to have that 9-inch aura is really going to help. And both riders on this do have the offensive 4 now. So overall, very happy with the Frost Mammoth. All right, slave giants. I know some people are going to be disappointed that you know, giants have changed in 2.0 and they're not this random crazy thing that you never know what it's going to do. I love them. I always hated the randomness of how giants used to work. I have several giants and I never put them on the field because I'm just not the type of person that likes randomness. Even with my orcs and goblins, I sometimes struggle with that. And then what I really like is each one of these giants now has a specific army flair. So whatever kind of matches the army, they've made each of the giants you know, really fit that army. And have all their abilities that now match the price of the giant. I always felt like for 280 points, he was too expensive for the randomness and what he did. But now I feel like I get my points back out of the giant. So for the Ogre Khan's slave giant, well, actually I should say for all giants across the board, they have rage. So, and they also have 7 wounds. So what that means is, number one, you have an extra wound since you have no armor, or at least the ogre ones don't. I mean, others still have armor, but they're not going to be heavily armored. Helps them survive a little bit longer, but every time they take a wound, then they get an extra attack. So when these giants get down to just a couple of wounds left, they can be really brutal in close combat. So that's something that I'm looking forward to testing out several giants. And then the Ogre Giant has Giant Sea, Giant Do. And what that does is basically he gets Sons of Avalanche, and he counts as a character for the purpose of that. So, you know, we're talking the impact hits, which I think it's great that the giant gets impact hits. And then the other one that I can see a lot of utility out of this, and I can see really affecting how people deploy and bring their stuff in, is the model counts as a musician being in a unit for the purpose of march to the beat, and that goes out to 18 inches for the march test. So it's going to be a -1 march if you don't have a musician in your unit, up to 18 inches away. So if you put one of these slave giants on each side of your board and you bring them in, you can pretty much make the entire opponent's army taking march test after turn 1. And if they don't have their units close to their leadership or their reroll bubble from their BSB, all those things on the outside that are normally their, you know, fast, you know, units, they're going to be stuck not marching. I am very, very excited to try out a double slave giant list. And what's crazy, it is a little more expensive than one Rock Ock, but it's not that much more expensive. So I'm absolutely going to drop the Rock Ock and put in 2 slave giants, drop a few other things, and just see how that works out. All right, so that is the Ogre book in you know, a very quick review. I feel like in 1.3, the Ogres were probably in the top third of armies for power level, and there were some abused items, and there were some things that people really hated when they were playing the Ogres. In this book, they took care of some of those things. The Rock Ock definitely has been knocked down. The parry on all of the Tusker cav. There's just several things that I feel like our book is in a really good spot right now. I am looking very forward to playing these, and I think other players are gonna, you know, accept our changes really well, and not going to have near as much that they're going to complain about. I think they're extremely competitive still. I have no concerns throwing my Ogre list down to, you know, any of the tournaments coming up. So I hope you enjoyed the layout of my Ogre book review, and I really hope you enjoy the new rules and the new army books for 2.0. I know we're sure enjoying them here. Thanks.